Fires a long one.
Oh,
Nothing but net. Oh, my goodness. Didn't see that coming. I'm diddly dee.
Yeah.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of All Nats. I am your host, Natalie, but most people call me Nat. And today it is my pleasure to welcome SJ to the show. SJ is a Dallas Mavericks fan. Am I correct in that, SJ?
Yes, you are.
But she is also either a fan or like an adopter of the Cleveland Cavaliers, which is interesting. So we're going to dig into that a little bit. She has her own podcast, 21 going on 77. Although she's the ripe age of 22 now.
Yes.
So don't be fooled by the baby face. She is a grown woman and she knows the sport of basketball. And I am going to really enjoy getting into this discussion with her. So SJ, thank you for coming and being a part of the show and sitting down to talk with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. So first of all, tell me about how you became a Dallas Mavericks fan. Are you from the Dallas area? Like at this point, I don't like to assume that people are fans of teams because they live there. So I don't think it's weird if you're not from Dallas. I'm just curious.
Okay, so it's actually interesting. I grew up outside of the United States. I grew up in Jamaica. So yeah.
My family is Jamaican too. What part of Jamaica did you grow up in?
Kingston. So,
oh, okay. What part of Kingston?
Kind of. I don't know if you know, like it's close to like St. Andrew. Like I'm like at the tip of like Kingston and St. Andrew, like right on the border there. So
I had some family downtown, but I also have family uptown, like in Red Hills and Havendale, that area. So
yeah, I'm kind of nearby there, like
okay,
more uptown. Yeah, but so when I was like maybe like 10, I don't know, it's funny, I got into basketball because of a crush. It was really embarrassing. So I was trying to pretend. Yeah, I was trying to pretend to be into basketball. So I was like on YouTube trying to, research
wow, because
stuff.
of a crush. Wow.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Go ahead.
Yeah. And like I saw Dirk, like I don't know, I watched a video of Dirk and I was like, who is this guy? Like he didn't look like a, typical, basketball player, like what I was looking at. And I kind of just gravitated towards like the Mavs that year and just like watched their games and stuff like that, like when I could. And it was just really like intriguing. And it happened to coincide with the championship year. Like it was 2010, 2011. So I was like, wow, this team's good. Like, and everything, and it was just like great
so you
vibes.
didn't know that Mark Cuban was going to screw it up and get rid of all the players, and y'all would never win again since then.
Yeah, they say ignorance is bliss. That's how I felt. I was watching with no agendas, not thinking about that. I was just watching. But yeah, so ever since then I kind of just gravitated towards not just watching the Mavs, but watching other teams.
I could understand falling in love with basketball because of Dirk, although that was the later side of his career.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, I had to really dig in to look at what he did in the past. But that's kind of where it like originated from, and I would say around maybe the 2014-15 season was when I really started to like dig in and start watching like pretty much the entire league. So yeah, that's my story.
Don't know us Jamaicans, we deep in this basketball stuff. See, they thought it was only about Patrick Ewing, but they don't know. We be knowing this stuff. I love it. Your family's from Jamaica, I assume.
Yeah. My mom, I was surprised. Like a few weeks when they did the 75, when the season was starting, they were announcing the 75. I was watching with my mom. Since it was on TNT, I was just watching with her, and she knows so much basketball. I did not know. She said she used to watch back in the day, but I thought when she said that she might have watched a game or two, she was naming names. She was so upset Penny Hardaway didn't make it. She was like, the name Steph is actually her favorite player. So you guys have that in common. She
Really?
loves Steph.
I
Oh
don't
my God,
understand.
she
To me,
loves
all
Steph.
Jamaicans should love Steph because of his last name, and he married a Jamaican
Exactly.
woman. I
And
don't
that's why she
understand.
loves him.
I
Yeah. She
don't
was like,
understand
he
any
married a
Jamaican who
Jamaican.
favors any other player. I don't.
Yeah, but she loves Steph. But yeah, she knows a lot of basketball. So I was surprised by that.
There's a few Jamaican players in the league. RJ Barrett,
Yeah. And
the guy from the
that
Pistons, the one who, what's his name? The one who was about to go crazy on Braun the other day.
oh Isaiah Stewart. And there's
Yes.
one on the Hornets, Nick Richards, I think is his name is.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't even
Yeah,
know
he's
that.
Dominican.
Yeah. There's a lot of players, and I love that. I wish sometimes, I don't know, we could get into the culture more behind players. Cause honestly, when I was younger, like the only version of the Knicks team that I ever enjoyed was when Patrick Ewing was still playing.
Yeah.
And largely we were drawn to him because it was like Patrick Ewing and he's Jamaican. Back then, my mom actually used to watch basketball a lot too. She watched it, me, her, my brother Barrington. Can you believe that is my brother's name? Um, so we'd all watch together as a family together. So yeah, I've been watching basketball for a very long time. So, all right, you discovered the Mavs. They won. You thought they were the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
Let's stick with the Mavs for a second. And then, so how is that coming and becoming a fan of the sport and a team that wins a championship? And then it's just been so downhill from since then. Like, how does that feel?
Yeah, it's a weird feeling because I've thought, especially, it's okay, so it's like a roller coaster of like feelings, I think, since like the championship year till now. Like we had, we were still in the mix after the championship year, even though we probably weren't, contenders or anything like that. But we get to the playoffs, we lose in the first round, year after year. And it gets hard because now you have to kind of step back and look at the team and trying to decide where you want to go and what you want to do, because you never want to be stuck in purgatory. Some teams in the league, they're suffering right now because they're in that kind of mediocre playing field where you're not quite good enough to make any noise, but you're not bad enough to get a high draft pick and get like a high end lottery talent or something like that. So it's just hard, I think.
Did you at the time think the right moves were being made when they kind of like disbanded that team?
In hindsight, definitely not. But like I can understand the mindset at the time. Like I thought that 2011 team was great. Like just all the pieces fit right, and they definitely should have kept it together. But I understand, Cuban and Donnie wanting to chase a big fish. Get more talent on the team. Dwight Howard. They were chasing Dwight Howard. Which is why they disbanded the team.
But they
And
didn't really have an indication they were going to get him, did they? It was
no,
just
and that's
wishful
their problem.
thinking. Okay.
Yes, that's their problem. Yeah, they made him a cartoon. It was really weird. Their issue is they have all these big ideas and they try to chase the big fish, but they're not attractive enough. Like they're always like the second or third option to those, guys. So they just put all their eggs in one basket, and I feel like they're the team, they never go after, like it's either all or nothing with them, and that's my big issue with them right now. They don't want the like mid-tier stars that can help, maybe not like move the needle to where you want, but they will help. They don't want that. They want that guy, the big fish, or they're just fine, improving around the margins and hoping for, I don't even know what. They're banking on some type of internal improvement, but like they're, to me, they're not self-aware enough, because look at the team, the teams over the years, like they don't draft well. So it's not like, other than the 2018 draft, they don't have a lot of high upside guys. And it's like, what are you waiting for? You're waiting for who to blossom? Like these guys that you picked up off the undrafted market? Like, let's be a little more realistic, and I just feel like they're not quite there yet.
So when that I want to say maybe it was 2 seasons ago now, when that like bombshell article dropped about them and like all of the rampant like
Yeah.
harassment and stuff that was going on. Was that a shock for you guys as fans to hear? Because I know like for the outside where we're like, oh, shocking, this is happening in Dallas. Like I didn't feel surprised. I mean, I don't feel surprised ever when I hear these things.
Yeah.
Mostly because I'm an employment lawyer, so nothing shocks me about companies. But I definitely, it just didn't surprise me that it was happening in that organization. So I don't know though, that's how I felt. But like, were you like, damn, like I can't believe this is, the Mavericks or carrying on like this? Or were you like, yeah, okay.
The thing is, yeah, I was a bit shocked because, when you're a fan of a team, you might want to call it like, blind faith or blind like optimism or anything like that, but you kind of give them the benefit of the doubt, most times with, most things. And with that, like, it was a shocker because, especially because of how, Cuban kind of carries himself as if, he's, above, things like that. And the fact that it was, stuff like that is happening, right under his nose. He's aware, and it's just definitely left like a bad taste in my mouth. And just how it was handled, and you know in his responses, hey, let's hire a woman, to clean up, St. Marshall, to clean up all this mess. Like, I am not a fan of it happening, period, and how it was handled. Um and recently, Cuban, the same guy that was employed, he recently bought land to help him out, quote unquote. So yeah, it's just, I'm not a Cuban fan. I've made it known. Um,
Do you
not a
think
fan
he's
of Cuban.
racist?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
He had those comments about Trayvon Martin, saying that if he saw, a black man with a hoodie on, he'd cross the street too. And I mean, he, apologized, but to me, if you have those thoughts, it's something that's ingrained. Like, it's your, inward bias. And I am not a Cuban fan. I am not. Not just for those reasons, but even basketball wise, he's an owner. Like, I wish
Too
we
involved
had.
in the org.
Yeah, he's too involved. Like, he acts as if he's the GM, and by all accounts, everything runs through him. Like, obviously he signs the checks, but
So you
any
didn't
final
believe him
decision.
when he said he had no idea all this stuff was going on.
Yes, absolutely not. Yeah, so I don't. That's why like, I am a bit worried about the Mavs' future, just because I just don't trust him. He is just too much of a wild card at this point.
So, okay. I had something I was going to ask you and it just slipped my mind based on something you said. But all right. So, I mean, a lot of changes have occurred with the Mavs.
Yeah,
Carlisle's gone, which
yeah,
I don't know if you think that's a good thing or a bad thing. Oh, I know what I was going to say. There's this perception about the Mavs, I think, from the outside. And it's that like they only really want like white European players. Um, and I wonder if you think that there's any merit to that. And do you think that that is also part of a reason why you guys have difficulty recruiting free agents? So not just that maybe Dallas isn't like a prime location, because we understand that people may want LA, New York, other markets more, but the way that like, because I feel like sometimes Celtics fans are a little delusional about like the perception of how people view their team from the outside, right? Like whether it's fair or not, the Celtics are viewed as a racist organization. And it has a lot to do with the city of Boston being perceived that way, but like they're interchanging, like, I mean, when I was growing up watching basketball, you thought of the Celtics as like, which is crazy because I do actually like the Celtics now, but it was like, oh, they're a white team. They're like, you don't like the Celtics. That's the white boy team, and but it was like white boy, like racist, not like, oh, it's because there's, but they just,
yeah,
it was something about the Celtics, and they gave that off, and that has never really shed them, I don't think. I don't know that it's to that degree with Dallas, but I do think there's something similar going on with race. And, do you think that seeps down to players like free agents, or do you think that's just like us as fans observing that?
It's funny, because it in within the fan base, it's something we kind of talk, joke about as well. And I think the real like issue, not I wouldn't classify it as an issue, but I think what was going on was that our general manager Donnie Nelson, he had a lot of ties to, like, the European, like, basketball market and scene. And he before he became general manager, he was an international scout, so he has a lot of relationships with international, players and agents, and stuff of that nature. So he naturally, I guess, gravitated towards that market. So, looking for undrafted free agents instead of looking at, the college scene, AAU scene, they're looking at, the overseas scene. So they're bringing in guys like, Maxi Kleber. No one heard of Maxi Kleber, but they somehow, found him, and they're bringing in, their guy. So, Luca Donnie has been scouting him since he was like 12, 13. So they kind of that's how they operated. That's how they
Because
got
Cuban
Dirk.
also made some kind of suspect comments where he's just like, European players are more skilled, and like the way
Yes.
it was this connotation like about the American players, but a lot of the American players are black, right? And so
Yes.
even though he didn't say that, there was that underlying, tone there.
Yeah, and that's another one of my big issues with him. The comments made about that. Even they asked Harrison Barnes about it too, because he was, on the team at the time. And even Harrison Barnes is like, yeah, I didn't agree with what he said. Yeah, he made it seem like AAU players and American players, black players, they rely on just athleticism, and they're just raw, and they don't really have skill. And that, yeah, European players are like just only skillful, and they rely on skill and stuff. And that's definitely not accurate. I'm sure, we both know that's not accurate. So yeah, I think it definitely affects, I definitely think it might have affected free agency as well, and how they approach, free agency, how they approach the draft, and just everything off season related. I
Speaking
hope
of
with
my old friend
Yeah,
Harrison Barnes, did you guys like the way they handled his little situation
I did
when they
not.
traded him?
I love Harrison Barnes. I'm sorry, he was a brick for us most of the time, but I love Harrison Barnes. I am
Okay.
one of those Mavs. I love Harrison Barnes. I still love him. If he wants to come back, I'm welcome to it. But I did not like it. Like, granted, there's a lot of reports about how it went down, and if he was really traded mid game. They asked him before the game, if, like, they told him this might happen, would you like to play? So he wanted to play, but even then, I didn't like the way how, like, they gave him away for nothing. Like, they just gave him away, to try to clear cap space, and they didn't use the cap space. And he, kind of changed his game in Sacramento, and became a really useful player, someone that we would need right now. But that's another story.
What
I'm
about
just
trading
glad.
away Seth Curry? Like, did you understand that decision at the time? I know, because I like to always ask about at the time versus hindsight,
Yeah.
because in hindsight, people were like, oh, y'all let Seth Curry go, and that was pretty silly.
Yeah.
But at the time, do you think it made sense?
Yeah, I was one of those that thought it made a lot. Most of the fan base, even outsiders, thought it made sense at the time, because at the time, Josh Richardson was perceived to be the better player, like, just all around game. Like, we all knew Seth was the better shooter, but just all around game. He was a better defender. He could, dribble, put it on the floor, play make a bit. So he was thought to be the better player. But it just, the fit was bad. Seth, I am not a, like, there's a lot of Mavs fans that whenever Seth, does anything these days, they're just crying. And I'm like, I understand it looks bad, but to me, Seth in Philly's like a perfect fit. Like, his game looks so much different, and he's allowed to be a kind of a different player in Philly. So to me, that situation just matches him better. Like, in Dallas, he was great for us. I liked his, season here, but he was never gonna be like how he is now in Dallas. It just wasn't gonna work. we were bringing him off the bench. You know, he's a starter in Philly, and in Dallas, he couldn't have been a long time starter. He just can't, not next to Luka. Like the fit wasn't like, even though it was better than Richardson, it wasn't perfect. So I always say you can't copy and paste production from team to team, especially, you know, role players. You can't just copy and paste their production. So at the time, I thought it was a great trade, but I can admit we took the L in the end.
I interrupted your thought when we were like wrapping up about, just Cuban and his comments and whether free agents might see it that way. So I didn't know if you had anything to add before I moved on, because I think I interrupted you.
Oh yeah, no. I was just saying that yeah, I just hope now that with the new, you know, regime, we have a new general manager, kind of a new shakeup. I'm not happy with the coach.
That was going to
But
be my next question.
yeah, I'm not happy with the coach, but I'm just excited for newness at this point.
Okay. So you don't think Jason Kidd was the right hire.
No, no.
And why is that?
So yeah, when news came out, I was begging them to do their due diligence at the very least. Like even I know Jamal Mosley was like a popular option at the time because, you know, Luca loved him, all the guys loved him. You know, he looked like he was ready to take a step into, you know, head coaching territory. But I didn't like that. I didn't like that because I thought, let's go outside of the house. You know, they try to keep everything in house a bit too much, in my opinion. So I was saying, let's, you know, you hired a firm to help you with your search, use the firm, you know, like really to do interviews, try to get the best candidate possible. And I remember saying, anyone but Jason Kidd. I was really adamant. I did not want him to come coach a team. Like outside of basketball, he had a lot of issues, especially like with our issues, like bringing that back, it just looked bad. And basketball wise, like if you want to keep it basketball wise, he's not, his reputation, he's not a good coach. Like I just was worried about his fit with this particular team. And granted, I don't think he's done a bad job so far, but it's definitely it's nothing to you know, it's not great. I think it's definitely a downgrade from Carlisle. Even though Carlisle, I thought his time was up with us anyway. Um, just from an X's and O's standpoint, it's definitely a downgrade. But I will say that he has gotten like the other guys like confidence up, and that does, you know, make a difference sometimes, and it's more meaningful. He's getting good basketball out of Porzingis, which is their number one priority from the off season. So I can say that part of it is a success, but I was just not happy with how it went down because reports came out that they did not consider anyone else other than Jason Kidd pretty much, and they didn't do their due diligence, and I was a bit upset about that.
Okay. Um, Carlisle, he's always kind of like a stick up his ass, you know, like
Yes.
my guy, I probably shouldn't say that. No one understands why I love him, but I do. I have a love for Rajon Rondo, flawed and all. And
Oh,
and so I remember his time very well on the Mavs, and that didn't end well. So I know a lot of Mavs fans don't care for him, but I was like,
yeah.
it's not shocking to me that a player like Rondo didn't work out with Carlisle, because like you want to call all the plays for Rondo, and that like I mean, I know there were other things going on, but he's just not that kind of player. So I guess at the time, I'm kind of tying this back to your comment about they always want the big fish. Not saying that Rondo was like a big fish, but he was one of the big names at
Yeah.
the time. And so I felt like if they would have ever thought about that from fit, they would have known, because I never thought that was a great trade the moment it happened. I forget the other teams, honestly, now that were possibilities at the time, but I was just like, I think the Mavs were not the place where Rondo needed to go. So when it all kind of like imploded and him and Carlisle had that little shouting match with each other, I wasn't shocked at all.
Yeah, that shouldn't have happened anyway. They, like I said, they panicked for no reason. I think we had at that point in the season, we were the best. We like were having like a historic offensive season. And I get that we weren't like high in the standings. We were kind of like middling in that middle six seedish. and they wanted to, kind of shake it up and get someone, get a name like you said. And to me, they ruined something to get Rondo, and I'm not a Rondo fan, because of his time in Dallas. But like you said, yeah, it wasn't a good fit. Carlisle is just he's as an X's and O's coach, one of the best, but in terms of just the human element, no. Like
Right.
he, yeah, he just does not get along with a lot of his players, and at some point, you have to look and say like, hey, we can, be mad at Rondo, we can be mad at all these different guys. Jay Crowder always has something to say, when he plays us. So I'm like, you can get mad at all these different guys, but look at Carlisle. Like, he has to be in, an issue if so many people have an issue with him. And it
So
kind of goes back
I
to
wasn't
free
that
agency.
like him and Dirk got along well because I don't know. I know him and Luca had issues,
Yeah.
which I'd like to talk about. But were there other players in the past on the Mavs that there were issues between them and Carlisle? I don't know the Mavs in and out well enough to know that.
Yeah. So in terms of Dirk, yeah, him and Dirk got along. It was no issues there. He usually butts heads with point guards, Carlisle, because he's so he gives short leashes to like point guards,
Right.
young guys. And he kind of towards the end, because of his issues with Luca, he kind of loosened his reins a bit. But he's always a guy, a lot of play calling, a lot of control kind of over everything on the
Mm-hmm.
floor. You're not gonna play at a fast pace in Carlisle's teams and stuff like that. So he doesn't mesh well with like definitely a certain type of player. And yeah, there's a lot of like I granted when the reports came out with him and Dennis Smith Jr. Players like Justin Anderson came to his defense saying, hey, Carlisle was great, but you have other players like Dennis Smith Jr. saying, "Well, I don't agree. He didn't treat me well." So I just felt like at the time, even before he resigned, I just like you just knew his time was up with the team. Like just his aspirations are bigger. He should be a championship coach, in my opinion, coaching a contender right now. Granted, he's in Indiana, and that's a that's a different story. But we all thought he was like going to Milwaukee if they had lost or something, and I was ready for him to go because I understand that
I
any
think
other
that job
coach,
was his if they lost.
yeah,
Like,
I
I've
think
never
so too.
seen a bad coach get saved that way because, like, let me not say a bad coach. He's not a bad coach. I don't think he's a great postseason coach.
Yeah,
And Budenhauser, man, that guy, he has like 9 lives because
yeah,
like he should not have a job anymore. And because Giannis bailed him out, he still does. And so whatever. So yeah, I think everyone thought the Carlisle job, I mean the Bucks job was gonna be Carlisle. Um, I have a theory. I'm not like a fan of like the whole certain coaches can only like coach like really good teams and high end talent, and like some coaches, if you think of like the Tibbs of the world, like they can like maximize, get the best out of like
yeah,
maybe like less talented teams. I'm like, I'm a fan of the coach that can do it all. Like that's the good coach
yeah,
to me, right? So like a coach like Eric Spoelstra, we've seen him coach all different kinds of teams, and
yeah,
he does well with all of them. And I get it, not everyone's a spo, but like to me, I'm not like I get it that I don't want to say that like you just get a bunch of talented guys on the court and they're going to be great, because I mean, not that they're like a bottom feeding team, but I think the Nets are sort of underachieving so far this year, even without Kyrie, right? And that's
yeah,
a high end talented team. So that's a credit to Kerr, I guess, in a way, when you think about what he came in and did in Golden State. That also requires certain kinds of players and buy-in too, right? Like
yeah,
I don't think that Kevin Durant and James Harden have those personalities anyway. I think they purposely went to a team like Brooklyn so they could kind of dictate like what was going to happen, because they immediately got rid of Kenny Atkinson, who I think is a
yeah.
great coach.
I think so
So
too.
so um so it takes that, right? Like if Kerr didn't have a superstar like Steph, who to me is like from the Tim Duncan ilk in terms of the kind of superstar he is and leader that he is, it doesn't necessarily work, right? And so I think it would have worked with a Carlisle and a Giannis, just because Giannis is also that kind of player. Like he's gonna like buy into what the coach is saying and go along with it and whatever, right? But I still think there's something to be said about the fact that like you guys need like that kind of high end talented to be like a good coach. It doesn't mean that you don't have anything to offer, but to me, I think a good coach should be able to work with any level of team, you know? And that's one of my biggest criticisms. I know it's like, how can you criticize Steve Kerr? But I do it all the time. And it's one of my biggest criticisms because I feel like sometimes he's a little overcredited for like the success, you know, of stuff. It's kind of like the Tom Brady Belichick thing. It's the Pop thing with his players. Like it's always like, oh, Pop in the system and he's so great. Nah, bro, like you haven't seen that same success since Tim Duncan has been gone, right? Like y'all gotta like Pop is an amazing coach. And I actually think Pop is one of the coaches that can get a lot from teams that are less talented. I'm just saying that like there's only so much credit you can give to a coach in the system. You have to have certain players too. And I don't like that we don't always give those players the proper credit, but instead give it to like this man on the sideline. It's a quirk that I have. It's not a, you know, but that's how I feel. So I think Carlisle's a good coach, and I've also thought he's a little bit of an overrated coach. I think that's my opinion of him.
Yeah, that's fair. He's a, to me, very overrated regular season coach, but the postseason I can give him his flowers. Like he will make the most out of nothing in the postseason. But yeah, overall, yeah, I think he's slightly. I mean, you're seeing it in Indiana, in my opinion. He's like there's certain trends with him, and you see it like the Mavs. We weren't really a great clutch team under Carlisle. The Pacers are a horrible clutch team right now. Like there's certain patterns with him that I feel like doesn't get like talked about.
Okay. So you thought it was Carlisle's time to go, but didn't love the Jason Kidd hiring, but like some things he has going on with the role guys. So you should know this because SJ and I only recently started following each other. I think like she was referred to me and then I checked her out and I like loved I've turned into like an SJ sort of stan. Okay. So like she's brilliant, guys. Like she's not going to tell you, so I'm going to tell you because we fan out over Black women on this podcast. But I mean, she's 22. She's in grad school already because she went to college very young because she's a genius. She's brilliant. So she's really great, really smart. And I'm so, like I said earlier, I'm so excited to have you on, but I just wanted to like plug you again as well. So,
Thank you.
you know, you should know because I don't know if you know about me that I don't always talk nicely about Luca. And you,
Yeah.
I'm sort of known as a Luca hater, which is unfortunate because, like, if you actually looked at my tweets in Luca's like first season, there was a lot of praise for him. But people don't look at those tweets, so they look at like last year and you know I don't talk about him that much because ain't much to talk about. He's not doing nothing. But I'm pretty critical of Luca, and he probably doesn't deserve all my criticism, but there's two reasons I'm really critical of Luca. One is this is the reason that it's not fair to him is because I feel like there was this like really mass agenda push to like elevate him too early. You know, he was being ranked higher than established players with more accolades who had done more. And I'm a big believer in you have to accomplish some things before I'm just gonna start saying like you're this. Like people are just like, but that's their career. Those are past resumes. But there's a reason why they have those things on their resume. Like, I'm sorry, but Kevin Durant is still in the league. Stephen Curry's still in the league. These players are still here. And you guys are telling me that Luka's better than some of them. I don't understand why you're telling me that Luka's better than some of them, right? So I didn't like that. But I also felt, and I also felt in large part, the push was about him being white. I did. You know, and there are people like, oh, you're crazy, but I don't think that I am. You know, I think the way the NBA has operated is like they're always like they want to find their next big thing, right? And so like I don't know if they're feeling like it's the end for LeBron, so we need to start like figuring out who the next person is. But I'm like, first of all, y'all are delusional because your next person is right here. His name is Wardell Stephen Curry, and he's a fucking cash cow. I don't know why y'all are looking in other places. But secondly, like Luca is really young. He still has some things to do anyway. But he's the next face of the league. He's definitely the next face of the league. He's top this in the NBA. And I'm like, he's better than Joel Embiid. He's better than all these people. And he hasn't even made it out the first round. And there was a lot of no help. He had no help. He had no help. And I said, well, whenever you have heliocentric style of players, the argument seems to always be with those guys that there is no help. So maybe it's not that there's no help, but maybe it's the way that he plays basketball. And I would be told, well, he doesn't trust his teammates. Like if he had teammates he could trust, he would give up the ball more because he did that in Europe. You know, he knows how to play like that. And, you know, there were people who pushed back against me. Some people call me racist. Because you know I said that I speak about race a lot and people don't like to talk about race, but I do. But I felt very confident that whether it was conscious or unconscious, that part of the reason he was being elevated, and Luka's an incredible basketball player, I know that, but I also know that like James Harden showed up out of shape to camp. um and he never kind of got the passes that Luka did, you know? And I don't even mean just this year. I mean, people forget like back in Houston, like that one year that James Harden didn't make all NBA, but he was coming off the season. I forget what year that was. And he started the season kind of slow. He was like really out of shape. But by the end of the year, he like, you know, he was in shape. His numbers were great. And he didn't make all NBA. And it was largely because he was penalized, you know? And they were talking about him. Oh, he's out of shape and he's this. And I'm just like, why does he get that kind of treatment? You know, but Luka doesn't, you know? And last year, I remember they kept saying Luka's in the MVP race, you know? This is Dallas was like not even a 500 team for a large part of the season. And I'm just like, okay, let me look at this. The Warriors are above 500. And Steph is not even in the top 5 because he finished top 3, but I'm saying like throughout the season. But Luka, whose team is below 500, is top 5 in the MVP conversation still. Why? What is he doing to warrant that? And so it was trends like that I would see, and they were irking me. And so because of that, my wrath got taken out on Luka, which I will acknowledge is not fair, but that's what happened. But secondly, I truly am not a fan of the brand of basketball he plays. I call him white James Harden. You know, on a level, it's like that Bron brand of basketball where there's like one person who dominates the ball and makes a lot of the decisions. I don't think that's a winning form of basketball personally. So those are the two reasons why I'm really hard on Luka. I just said a lot, but I wanted you to know that coming into the discussion with me before we talk about Luka.
Yeah, no problem. And here's the thing, like I've like all of what you said, like that's you're not like the first person to, like echo, sentiments like that. And some of it's totally fair in my opinion. Like for example, like I would agree. I wouldn't or let me say I wouldn't push back too hard on the notion that part of the reason why, he gets a big push is because he's white. Like I
Right,
wouldn't
not
push
the
back on
sole
that.
reason. You're right, not the
Yeah,
sole
yeah,
reason, part of it.
yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't push back on that. That's true. I know as a black woman in this society, like white men especially, they get, elevated in ways that others don't get sometimes. So I'm fully aware of that. I wouldn't push back on that. But I think a bigger reason as to why he gets pushed isn't like race related. I think it's age related and numbers related. I think in this day and age in the NBA, like we're obsessed with numbers and like stats and counting stats and all that. And he came out the gate like really young with these like outrageous numbers. And you're like, how can a 19-year-old, be putting up these numbers? Like, this
They
is
were putting
outrageous.
him in conversations with MJ. It was nasty.
Yeah, and but like
Nasty to me.
but by looking at the numbers, if you're looking like I said, looking at the numbers, he was in that conversation. You know what I mean? Like it's like we're just so obsessed with numbers that I think that's why he got the push that he got. They thought, you're looking at development and they're thinking it's linear. So, oh, he's gonna get better, year after year after year. And if he's already, averaging this, imagine what he'll average in like, 3, 4 years. He's not even near his prime. So I think that's why he got put over a lot of guys, and I'm one. I make it clear that I don't do that. Like a lot of Mavs fans within the fan base, they call me a Luka hater. So they call you a Luka hater. I get called a Luka
What?
hater too. Yes, I get called a Luka hater
Why? Why do they think you're a Luca hater?
because I tell the truth about him. Like stuff like that. Like I've seen Mavs fans say like he's on like goat trajectory and stuff like that, and I'm like, all right, relax, like like he's definitely not. And some guys, they try to put him in like last year they were saying he was top five. I was pushing back. I was like, he's not top five. Like, let's not, do that. Like, let's not overrate him because people are, not that you should care about that, but people are pushing back against him because you're trying to elevate him, too quickly and all that. So yeah, I get called a Luca hater because I don't,
Wow.
put him on that crazy pedestal. But I do, I just want to be honest about him, and I think that both sides sometimes aren't very honest about him. And it is what it is. Like a player of his caliber, he's gonna get a lot of noise, surrounding him. So it is what it is. But I will say with just his style of play and like okay, I'll start with the playoffs first. Um, to me, the first round arguments, it's jokes at this point, is what it is. People are going to use it, in their little silly debates saying that he can't get out of first round, all that. But I don't understand that pushback against him because he was never favored in any of those series. Like, if you look at those Mavs teams, like, we have been technically a 7 seed, like for 3 straight seasons. They haven't changed the team. The first year, we had a historic offense, but we couldn't guard anything. we couldn't guard anything. So we couldn't close out games. We were a 7 seed. Got eliminated by a title contender at the time, even though they had an epic flameout, which I
Right.
very much enjoyed. But they were a title contender. Like, if you ask most people before that series, they had us getting swept or like 5 at most. Like, and we took
Mhm.
it to 6. We were that scrappy team that took it to 6. So a lot of people expected, like you said, they were before the season they're putting Luca in the MVP conversation because his second year, he was fourth. So again, like I said, they're thinking linear, development. So if he was fourth in the race his second year, third year he must win it. That's what they were, thinking. So he had a lot of expectations that to me he didn't really meet, especially at the beginning of the season. Like you said, he showed up, out of shape. He was just not playing good ball. And then we had, COVID destroy us. And then we started playing better after the fact. And we were the 5th seed, but the entire time I said we're really a 7th seed. We were tied with the 7th seed. We just got
Right.
5 because of division record. So we didn't really improve. And now this year we're 6 now. We're 1 game over 500. Like, we're the same team. You know what I mean? So like last year we went up 2 on the Clippers and that was great. And you can say we choked the 2
Did
lead,
you
but we
think you
were
had the
losing.
series in the bag once you guys were up 2-0?
No, I was nervous because I a lot of I'm like I said, I try to be like a realist, kind of fan. So I didn't have us winning. I did not have us winning at all. Like, I was like, we're just not gonna win. But I said if we push it to 7 that we'd win. That's what I said. I was like, if it's anything less than 7, we'd lose. But if we push it to 7, we'd win. But I was wrong on that. But I I didn't have them winning, but when we went up 2-0, I got excited. I got
You
excited.
should
I
be.
can't
You're a
lie.
fan,
Yeah.
of course.
I was really excited. I was like, is this about to happen? Like, I was just like just seeing how everyone was playing, and I know we had historic, shooting numbers. Like, we were shooting the lights out, but I was excited. And then when they came to Dallas and when I saw we were up a million again, I thought it was going to be a 5-game series. Like, when we were up those like 20 points in that first quarter, I was like, yup, they're gonna win, game 4. I was like, we're winning game 5. I was like, this is done. We're 5 games. And then, the infamous submission or substitution with Luca, going out and all that. And when they won game two and games three and four, I knew they were gonna win. I didn't feel like we were gonna close it out. But seven, we went seven. And again, if you ask people before the series started, they wouldn't have said, we would have won or we would have taken them to seven. A lot of it was like six,
Oh,
America
trust
losing
me,
six,
us
five.
Warriors fans know all about revisionism because now Steph Curry has all the
Yeah.
help in the world when nobody was checking for Andrew Wiggins or Belly or Otto Porter or any of these guys.
Yeah.
They're all on fucking minimum deals, but now, we
Yeah,
weren't
now
even
he has
protected. So I understand that, and there is no shame in losing to the Clippers at all. My only pushback against that is that if you got, like, not you guys meaning you, but meaning
yeah.
the public at large, the people who
Mhm.
elevate Luca, if you were going to put him into conversations with other top talent, then the expectations can't be different. And he's
I
going
agree.
to get that criticism because when he did ultimately lose, I heard a lot of they weren't favored and it was the Kawhi and this and that. I said, but when y'all were up 2-0, y'all weren't saying that. Y'all were like, this is done. And this is, whatever. And I said, they went up 2-0 and then went up 3-2. And he went back home and had a chance to like do it there and didn't get the job done. I said he also was horrific in every fourth quarter. Like if we're going to talk about him, like then we're going to hold him to the same standards as everyone else. If you let him actually naturally develop as he should as a young player, then I think it's fine to say like, wow, that's really impressive what he did to go 7 with the Clips, right? Once he develops, once the team develops, whatever it is, they get some new pieces in, they're going to be a real threat. Not for losing in the first round saying, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come into the season and rank him above Steph Curry. And of course, I take that personally because Steph is my guy. And so I don't want to hear that. But even the season before, they had him ranked above Kevin Durant. They had him ranked above like several players, and people are like, well, Kevin Durant was coming off of this injury and we didn't know. Listen, all I know is every year I see him ranked highly. I see him that he's going to be the front runner for MVP. And then he starts the season and it's a slow season. This year he was badly out of shape. I needed to stop. I need the hysteria to stop. And I think after 2 years of it being like that, people probably aren't going to like, who knows? Because if he does crazy in the postseason again this year, it might be the same shit, whether y'all win or not. If he's like insane in the postseason, people are going to be like, look at Magic, look at me, So I don't know, because people have like very short memories. They get like really excited about the stats. It's the way I feel about James Harden. Every year he has like these stretches during the season where he's scoring and going crazy, and people are like, oh, he's the best, scorer ever. He's better than Dwayne Wade and all this blasphemous stuff they say. And then what ultimately happens in the postseason? I'm like, how many times y'all gonna get fooled by this guy? So I'm not saying that that's Luka. That's not what I'm saying. But I think people have short memories, which sometimes you should have a short memory, but he could very easily, I think, with like a stretch or in the postseason, have people erase everything that happened so far this season. And so I will watch for it. And I just want to let you know, as my new friend and mutual SJ, that if it happens again, I will be on Luca's ass. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I understand. I actually follow quite a bit of people who aren't like fans of him, but again, like I said, I understand the criticism, and I'm someone I will criticize him because I feel like a lot of Mavs fans, they treat him like a separate entity from the team. And I'm like, I didn't like, some of y'all might have followed Luca to the team. I didn't follow Luca to the team. He came to my team. Like he came to my team. So he's if he's having a stinker, I'm gonna do like what I do with everyone else. I'm gonna make the jokes like he should be in the G League. Like he's not, like he's not exempt from jokes in my opinion or criticism to me. So I'm gonna say it. And I mean, to your point about
I
like,
think there's a point where players get to that level. I do, but I just feel like Luka, when I say that, meaning like if he's brought a few trips to Dallas and done some things, then yeah, I don't think fans should be criticizing him. But like when he hasn't done that yet, I think that's me personally, but that's my own issue with the way like Warriors fans, like someone last night said that they can't defend Steph anymore. You can't defend Steph anymore. Like these are the kinds of things that happen in my fan base. So, but I, like to me, I would feel like for most people, Dirk is Teflon, right? And like you're not going to talk about Dirk, right? And he to me has earned that, right? And so that's what I mean. I feel like he's earned it. So look, Luka's, like I said, he's an amazing talent, and I have no doubt that he'll be successful in this league. But I just think he has to like earn some of the praise that he's getting. So with that being said, he's been out, right? Because he's dealing with an injury. Did he come back
Yeah,
yet?
he returned 2 games ago. We had
2
just
games
had a
ago.
back-to-back OKC and Denver. So he came back for the OKC game. And yeah, he had an ankle injury.
You
And
guys
right,
just beat Denver, right? Was it last
yeah,
night?
last night, yeah. Yeah, he had an ankle injury from when we played Denver actually the second time. Austin Rivers like fell on his ankle, and it's like a really bad turn. He was out for a couple games, came back, but I think he came back too early because he just looked like bad. He was limping all over the court, and he like returned it, so he had to sit back out. Then right when he was gonna return, he had sent into protocol. So it's been a very up and down season for him specifically, and he's back and he looks okay. I
That's what I was
mean,
gonna
to
ask. Like,
me,
how's he? Well, like like James Harden, like wasn't looking great for a lot of the season, and then he went out because of protocols. But now he's come back and he's playing a lot more like the James Harden we all know, and it looks like he may have lost some weight, and maybe his conditioning or his body's maybe where it needs to be. Has any of that happened for Luka or?
I would say no because he in the post game presser after his first game back in OKC, he said like his chest was like burning and he like when
He
he
had
was in
COVID, right?
he had COVID. Yeah, he said when he was in quarantine, he did have symptoms. He had low energy. So I think it affected him a bit different. So it'll take him. Granted, he had an okay game in OKC. He didn't really shoot well, but he was dishing it out, all of that. But he kept turning the ball over. But in Denver, it was much better. Like he again didn't shoot well. You can tell like a lot of his shots like in the paint were like just short. So you could tell I don't think he has his legs back, but he was like so much better and he's coming along. I think I'm a bit disappointed in the season because I thought he would have come in shape and this was going to be the year where he plays out of his mind, and I thought we would have really needed it, given that the team didn't improve in terms of getting pieces that would move the needle, and I thought we downgraded as at coach. So I thought we would have really needed him to be that MVP caliber player to make some noise, and he hasn't been that. I think it's been a bit overblown. Like, I mean, I make jokes, but they're just jokes at the end of the day. But I think it's a bit overblown. People think, say he's been just ass this season, and I'm like, he hasn't been ass. Like, ass is, no offense, not to throw a stray, but ass is De'Aaron Fox. Like, De'Aaron Fox has been ass. Like, you can say he's been ass. But Luca,
That's my
he's
guy though, so I'm gonna let you take
yeah.
that shot at him and not push back at you too much. But that's my baby. Go ahead.
Yeah, but yeah, so to me that's what like bad or for a star would be. But he's definitely not lived up to any hype that anyone has had, and I hope he gets it gets it together real quick. But yeah, I just think the shape, the conditioning thing, I have been on him about that for so long. And the funny thing is, like, the bubble was like his second year. He was like, oh my goodness, he was like really in shape. Like he was blown by like to me now he could only really blow by bigs. Like he's not blown by anybody right now because he's just so out of shape. But second year, he's one anyone you put in front of him, he was gone. Like that first step was crazy. And in the bubble, he took it up another notch. He hired a chef. He had a personal trainer. He came in the bubble in shape and he played some of his best ball in the bubble. And then 2 seasons in a row, he starts out of shape. And I'm on that. Like I said last season, and I got a lot of pushback from it. From, like I said, Mavs fans calling me a Luca hater. I said that he is not an MVP caliber player at the moment, and he won't be until he gets his conditioning together and becomes like more of a leader. And I got pushed back for it. I don't understand why. I don't think I said anything wrong. And it's true. Like, to me, conditioning isn't a thing that's gonna happen overnight, which is why I don't have much thoughts about where the Mavs are gonna go like this season, maybe even next, because I just don't see him being at the point where he needs to be for the team to be really successful, like really like contender status. But he's my guy, so I will believe that he's gonna get it together, at some point. And I can hope that he does it sooner rather than like later, waiting until he's like at the end of his contract and getting in shape for another team. I don't want that to happen. So I hope he can get it together sooner or later, because it is a problem, whether fans want to admit it or not. It's not the biggest problem with the Mavs, but it is, like, it's definitely a problem.
Are he and Kid getting along?
By all accounts, yeah. Yeah, Kid. The big thing with Kid, he communicates with the players. So he had this 3-man council. I don't know if it's still a thing. Like,
I
at the
heard
beginning of this
about that.
season,
We're like, what?
yeah, they would like help make decisions and stuff like that, with like who's starting, who's playing, and all that. So I'm like, okay, like, it's
Do
a
we
bit
know who
gimmicky.
was the part of the 3-man council?
I think it was our guess at the time was KP, Luca, and Tim, since they were like our 3 best players. But I think it was Brunson, KP, and Luca, because
Did I
they
see
said
news
Brunson is.
recently that Brunson was going to be the starter now?
Yeah, he's starting now. Yeah, he's
Okay.
he's starting now. Yeah, you couldn't put him back on the bench with what he was doing. But yeah, the big thing with Kid, he communicates a lot with the guys. They talk a lot. So by all accounts, they look like they get along great, which is what we need at this point, at the
So
very
I
least.
I think the Brunson move is interesting because a lot of the no help arguments for Luca last year was there's not another playmaker, there's not someone else, another creator. Someone, I'm like, what happened to Brunson? Like what about this guy? And there were some people who were just like, he was, he couldn't do anything. And then there's some people, I saw some Dallas fans who thought that he was underutilized um last year. Maybe he wouldn't have made the difference. I don't know. But did you feel the same way that the sentiment was reflected, at least, over NBA Twitter and in the media, just like Luka has no help, he has no help? Like, did you feel like that? You felt like he just had no squad to work with? I understand thinking the Clippers are better and more talented, but did you feel that he was just out there with a bunch of bums?
Okay, so to me, this is a hard question to answer, because to me it's yes and no, but very specifically to certain situations. So like in the playoffs, I wouldn't classify it as no help, but I think I stand on the hill. I don't think I'll ever leave it, especially rewatching the series. They had to play that way to even get to 7. I believe. I don't like the Clippers was just such a bad matchup for Porzingis at the time, with how he was like just moving and his headspace and everything. Porzingis, I agreed with the decision, like as it was happening, to put him like in the corner and be a decoy. Porzingis was not like in the first 2 games. They were feeding him the ball. He could not make a shot over Rondo. Like, to me, like a
I thought in the second game he played well. Didn't he
the
have like
second
a
game he
really?
played well. Yeah, the second game he played within the offense, and I remember comment. The first game he was horrible. Second game he played like within the offense, and the third game he was a part of the reason why we like blew that lead. And then I think after that the coaching staff kind of gave up. I mean, whether you think they gave up trying to make him a focal point prematurely, that's another debate. But I feel like with the way he was moving, like he was not, he's not the Porzingis you see right now. And in terms of Brunson, that was a horrible matchup for him. It turns out Brunson is not great with like length, and athletic wings on him. And that's what the Clippers did. They put athletic wings on him, and he didn't really have a great series. And then by the end, towards the end, Carlisle just had a short leash with him, and I disagreed. That was one thing I disagree with. He played like 10 minutes in Game 7, and Trey Burke got his minutes. I 100% still disagree with that decision. Like, I understand Brunson wasn't great, but under no circumstances are you going to take his minutes away to give them to Trey Burke. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that I didn't like. So in the playoffs, not to say that it was no help, because in the games we did win, guys stepped up. Because in my opinion, I hate the no help argument just in general, because no one in history has ever won without like at least a good team around them. Like, no one has ever won by themselves ever. So I don't like the no help argument just in general, but I wouldn't say he had no help, but I think that was with what was going on, how guys were. I think that was the best way we had to play given the piece that we had. However, during the season, like, and this kind of contributed to him being in the MVP conversation. You said top five. I didn't agree. The whole last year, I was saying he should not be in the conversation. I was getting pushback. Like I said, Mavs fans calling me Luka hater because I said he wasn't an MVP caliber player, but they were trying to make the narrative that he dragged, the team to the 5 seed, getting, and I'm like, that's getting no help. And I'm like, that's not true. Like, I was there when we started to play really well in that second half of the season. It was because the role players stepped up. Like Dorian Finney-Smith, he was a brick the first half of the season. He got COVID. He had a bit of a rough time coming back. And then he shot like 40% from three the like rest of the season. He was great for us. Brunson stepped up his scoring too. He was great for us. Even
Yeah, I
Porzingis,
remember
like,
talking about Brunson, like he should maybe be in the
yeah,
six-man conversation.
yeah, exactly. Tim was we moved into a 6-man role as well, and he was playing well. Like, these guys stepped up. And even now, like, oh my goodness, I don't like what the fan base has done over the past couple weeks. With Luka being out, like, we haven't had a great, win-loss record. We ended 5-5, 500, which is great without him. In the 10 games he played without him, which
Absolutely.
is great.
A
Yeah,
500 record without your star player is excellent.
exactly. But during, like, while it was happening, we were like maybe like 4-8 at the time or something like that. And I just thought or 4-8 over the past 2 seasons. They were counting up the past 2 seasons. And when people were trying to praise Brunson, like, I remember a tweet. It was like, oh, Brunson has really stepped up, as a starter of Luka being now, he's averaging 20 points. And someone like with the biggest Mavs account, on Twitter replied with a tweet saying, oh, we're 4-8. And I'm like, are you like, what is going on? Like, we can't compliment, guys for playing well because you want the dominant narrative to be he has no help. So you can't give other guys credit. That I don't agree with, because those guys, yeah, we haven't, some games we should have won. We might have not, closed it out well because we're missing our closer, but all things considered, they played really well. I was really encouraged with what I saw. Some guys stepped up, guys that you were calling useless, like Dorian Finney-Smith. Some of these guys, they stepped up and showed, hey, maybe we're not, elite or anything like that, but we can play. We can play. And that's why I wouldn't consider this team as no help. I think we have a talent deficit, definitely. If you look at just a lot of teams, like our team is made up of, and I'm not saying this, I'm gonna be careful when I say this, but our team is just made up of, undrafted guys, like a lot of lower end, lottery talents. And at the end of the day, if you look around the league, it's like a lot of the top guys, they were lottery picks, they were highly touted prospects, and all that. We don't have a ton of that, on our team. It's like Luka, Porzingis, Brunson, even though he was a second round pick, he's great. But and then after that, Dorian Finney-Smith, one of our best players, undrafted dude. Maxi Kleber, one of our best players, undrafted dude. Like, so I think we have a talent deficit, but it's not to the point where people think we're like the fucking Detroit Pistons. I'm sorry if I cursed. I don't know how you feel with that.
Girl, I curse
Okay,
like a sailor.
but yeah, but we're not the Pistons. Definitely not the Pistons or
Trust
something
me,
like that.
I understand narratives because, like, last night, Steph didn't even score 10 points, and which is, I think, the first time this season he hasn't scored in double digits. But who cares? We won the fucking game, you know? And people were just so, like, zeroed in on how it's hurting his MVP candidacy, bro, it's fucking January, yo. And like, you think it's better the Giannis put up more stats and they lost to the fucking Pistons? Do you think that's helping his MVP case? Like, I'm just saying, like, all the people that you guys are like concerned about, they all took L's last night. The Nets, they lost 3 in a row and they lost. Okay, they lost to the fucking Clippers the other day with nobody.
Yeah.
That team is fucking depleted. You know what I'm saying? And Katie last night shot 8 for 24. Do you see the Nets fan base having a fucking meltdown because he shot 8 for 24? Like, what? Like, why do y'all like this? It is so ridiculous to me. Like, I really like kind of lost my shit. I mean, I lose my shit a lot, so that's not saying much, but I was just like, y'all are morons because this is crazy. We won the game. This is a good thing. The fact that the team can play well, despite Steph having a really, really, really bad shooting night, that bodes well for us. That means we're a legit fucking team. Like, that's a good thing, right? But like, if you think the reason we are now on pace to win 66 games, if you think that's not because of Steph Curry, you're delusional. And at the end of the day, the guy who leads the team to the most wins, being the best player on that team, when his team wasn't even projected to be higher than like 6, and for some people at a play-in spot again, y'all are delusional. That MVP is his, okay? It's his. As long as he plays to his level, okay? I'm not going to worry about the best shooter to ever play the fucking game. I don't even like saying that shit. People know me. It like pains me because I think it's like, honestly, it's a diss to even say that because I think he's better than just a shooter. But if you think the best shooter to touch a basketball and at worst a top 3 player in the league, if you're really concerned that he is going to shoot, by the way, this is what we're upset about, that he's, oh dear, shooting 44% from field goals percentage, a 6'3" fucking point guard. Because he set his standards so high that people like Dame Lillard are praised for the stats that Steph is putting up this year. So when people say that he's not playing at an MVP level, I'm like, no, what you're saying is he's not playing at Steph's level, because he very much so is still playing at an incredibly high level. And I'm gonna need y'all to do better than just looking at field goal percentage when 66% of his shots are from 3 this year, okay? Highest volume of 3s that he's ever shot, and he's shooting them at a 40% clip. What does that tell you guys? Okay. It like the need for him to be like dominant so they can like then go with their agenda, right? It's the same thing you were kind of expressing about Luka. Like, it doesn't matter to me if Steph has health. I don't care if he's not averaging 30, and I don't give a shit if he's inefficient. I know that this shit works because of him. I know that when he's running around the damn court drawing 3 defenders, even if he has 8 points for the night, that is still helping Andrew Wiggins get wide open. Andrew Wiggins is probably going to be an all-star this year. That's fucking incredible. People wrote him off when he left Minnesota. That's fucking value. The man said, I've never been this open before in my life. What? Why do they think that is? Please, SJ, tell me, why has this man never been more open in his life until now? Who is that because of? I'm sorry, I'm not putting you on the spot like that. It's rhetorical. But it just, so
yeah.
It was like annoying to me this morning. And so I appreciate that you said like it annoys you, because my fan base annoys me at times too. And you would think that when you're winning and have the best record in the NBA, that like you would be excited. And yet we were having a meltdown last night. So, and we beat the Miami Heat in the process. It wasn't even like a bottom feeder team. We beat the Miami Heat. And I get that they were missing some guys, but that's still the Miami Heat. They're a solid squad. So it was silly to me. So we're about to play you guys. We're about to play the Mavs. It's our first matchup for the year. I don't remember if we meet up 3 times or 4 times this year, but it's our first matchup for the year. So Luka's back, but don't you guys have some other people in protocols right now?
Yeah, so we just got our whole team back just to lose Porzingis. So
Damn.
yeah, we lost him a couple days ago. So he's the only like regular rotation guy.
So he won't be
I think
playing when we play you
he
guys.
won't be playing. No, I don't believe so. So I think Boban might be clearing sometime soon, but he, like I said, he didn't really play. And some G League guys and Trey Burke, but like I said, they're not in the rotation. So our full rotation is back, minus Porzingis. So
So what
yeah,
do you
I am.
expect from that game then?
Oh boy. Okay, so at the
That's
beginning,
gonna be on Wednesday,
yes,
and it's gonna be on national TV. It's gonna be
yes.
on ESPN. So, but Luca's maybe due for like a big splashy game, right?
Yeah, and it's Dirk retirement game, his jersey retirement game
Yeah.
too. So it's a lot going on. And I'm
I
gonna be
will tell you
honest.
this though,
Yeah.
historically, when Steph has a really, really just abysmal shooting night.
Yes, he comes. I'm aware. He comes back hard. That's that was something I was gonna bring up too that I'm concerned about. But I'm not gonna lie. Before the season, I was not high on the Warriors. Like, all those tweets saying, "What team aren't you as high on as everyone?" I said the Warriors. A part of it was definitely like hate, like a little hate in my heart. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was a bit biased. I did not want to see the Warriors great again. Like, I was. It's the I'm a LeBron fan, by the way. So it's like
Oh
the
my
you
gosh.
know.
Your mother must like want to just own you, but she can't
Oh,
because
my
she
mother.
loves you.
Yeah, yeah. So I
How is that
have a little.
possible?
I like so it was like the Mavs and Heat back
I
in
said,
so
how is
that
that
final.
possible? Like he's not a great player. This tells you
Yeah,
how
but
much this
no, it
man.
was I liked him on the Heat when I was getting into basketball. And like I said, I was watching at the time with no agenda, so I
But
wasn't
y'all
thinking
beat
about.
him
We did, but like I said, I was
after he
10.
laughed at Dirk, and you still like him.
I was watching without no agendas, like without agendas.
And
I
when
was
you
just
found
watching.
out he laughed at Dirk, you still like him.
It is what it is. It's, I guess as a Mavs fan, that's my flaw. Because it's funny because they really don't like him. But I don't know.
He
I can't help
laughed at the
myself.
goat, not the goat, but you know what I mean. The goat
I
of
mean,
the
that's
Mavericks.
water under the bridge at this point. But
Does Dirk really like Braun like that? I don't get the sense that he does.
I
He
don't
just.
think they talk. They don't really
I'm not
talk.
saying they're friends, but it's just the way he talks. Like, I'm not that he disses him, but it's like he's like, Kobe's the hardest player that I've ever had to play
Yeah,
against on the court. And it
yeah.
doesn't sound like he reveres him in the same way when I
Oh yeah,
hear him talk.
definitely not. I mean, he beat him. Like he beat him, so he's not gonna, like granted he beat Kobe too, but he beat Braun like in the finals. So it's not, it's not. I wouldn't think he would talk about him like glowingly. So I mean, it's I keep those separate, those things separate when I, talk about that. But so yeah, I have a little bit of bias against Golden State because I feel like y'all
LeBron's your
took some.
favorite player ever?
No, Dirk is.
Dirk
LeBron's
is.
second. Yeah, LeBron's second. LeBron's second.
Oh,
Um,
sunshine.
yeah, so I feel like y'all took some chips off him, but so I have I have a
Yes,
little bias. Yeah,
because
you
we're
did.
now.
Yeah, but yeah, so but after like when y'all went 8-1, I know some people were saying, well, just wait, they had a soft schedule. I was like, no, they're the real deal. Like if you watch them, like you just knew like, okay, they're back. So I had to take that L very early. I took that L very early. I
I
was like, yep, they're
appreciate you
back.
for welcoming, for recognizing that so early and just
No, yeah, it was
accepting
obvious.
defeat, because there's still
Yeah, it was very
people.
obvious.
Some
I
guy told me
know.
the other day, postseason's a whole different story. Oh, okay, because they've never gone to the postseason and won anything
Yeah.
before. Like,
Yeah, no, you can take the L. They're back. They're back. But so at the beginning of the season, people are saying, "Oh, the Golden State's gonna like blow us out, all that." And at first, I was like, "Oh no, Luka's not gonna let that happen because he plays very well against Golden State. He shoots like a splash brother when he plays, yo. I think he likes the dual kind of element. He's a big game kind of player, so he likes national TV. Dirk's retirement jersey, game. Expect a big game from him. Even in his like state when you think he's not conditioned. Like, I mean, Golden State. My big concern with them. Granted, I made a tweet saying that if like the Mavs played, this is before Porzingis went out. I said if they play their two big lineup with Porzingis and Powell in the front court, that we, get blown out. Like it would be the worst loss in franchise history. I was like exaggerating, but I thought it was going to be a really bad loss, not because of our defense. People assumed I was talking about our defense, but I was worried about our offense. Like Golden State is a extremely, extremely good defensive team. Like they're great, like a great defensive team. I'm worried about how we're gonna score. I can't lie. Like I'm a bit worried. Granted, I just know Luka's gonna have a big game, but I like what I've watched over the past 2 seasons. I like the job that Wiggins has done on him, and I think in this particular matchup, granted, it hasn't really mattered in the past because he's had big games, but for this particular matchup and how he's kind of looked this year, I would say I'm slightly worried, but not worried enough where I don't think he's gonna produce. I think he's definitely gonna produce, but the other guys, oh man, I just don't know how we're gonna score, especially if Kerr starts mixing up the defenses, because that's one thing about Luka. If you give him the same look, he's gonna adjust. So, and I know Kerr's a excellent defensive coach, so he's not going to give Luka the same look the entire game. So, I'm just worried about the schemes that they're going to use. I think it's going to be incredibly hard for us to score. And Golden State, they don't really have much weaknesses. Like we don't have, with Porzingis out, he's been better in the post this year, but we don't have him. Like, we have no post presence. Not to say that Golden State
Trey
gets
usually
killed.
manhandles Porzingis, although
Exactly.
although
It's a bad matchup.
It's arguable that like Loon might be on him more, but Dre really has like a thing with Porzingis.
Yeah, no, it's a bad. I think Golden State is a horrible matchup for Porzingis, and just the way how we defend, like we're pretty good this season at like defending. We're 10th right now in defense.
I was gonna
not just
ask,
the eye
where are
test.
you guys in offense and defense?
So offense, we're 17th. Which is why I'm worried.
But you were
about
missing Luka for a long part.
Yeah,
of
we
that
were.
time.
Yeah, but even with him, like yesterday, we like. Granted, Denver is good at defense too, but like we like barely cracked 100. OKC, we didn't even score 100 against OKC. So
in the beginning of the season when he was there and you guys had players, I know it was like a short time, but were the games as low scoring then too?
Yes. They were. We have not been. I don't think we touched top 10 this season for offense, and it's just Jason Kidd's offense. Like we're not gonna be high scoring. Just the way the team is built and how he wants to play, like we're just not gonna be like a great offensive team. But the defense, I will give him credit for that. He has turned.
So
they're
a top 10 defense.
Yeah, we're a top 10 defense.
Okay.
But and the thing is, like, just looking at this matchup for Golden State, there's just not much to exploit. Like they could rebound well. I was thinking, oh, maybe, we can maybe get them on the glass, even though we're not like a great rebounding team, but maybe no, they can rebound well. The only thing that's a weakness is like they turn the ball over a lot. And if we can try to get out in transition, get some easy buckets, that'd be great. But that's really it. So I don't expect us to win. If we do, that'd be great. But especially for Dirk on his night. But I don't expect us to win. When I watch the team, especially against good teams, like even with Denver yesterday, like we won the game, we blew them out like towards the end. But watching like the beginning of the game, I didn't feel like we're not that caliber, team. We're not like a great team. So, and Golden State is a great team. So I don't expect, if they stay focused, because they can come out and not know what they're doing, on their end. But if they stay focused, they should win the game pretty easily, in my opinion.
Okay. Okay, so you don't feel like they have much to exploit. So it sounds like you're like expecting it not to be a good night for Dallas, but will be a good night because of Dirk's retirement and retiring his jersey. And Luka's probably just going to have a good game because he's due and it's a big night. Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be a good game. I could be wrong. I've actually underestimated my team a lot this year. Not underestimated in terms of like, I said that I thought we were going to be a top 3 seed. I thought there was definitely a good chance that they could be number one, but I'm not gonna lie, I hedged a little. So I said like top three. But my hedging wasn't about my lack of belief in them. It was about adjustment, like any adjusting that may need to happen during the season, whether it's adjusting to getting Clay back or adjusting to like new players on the team like Otto and others who may need to like get, you know, certain things down. So it was less about me thinking they'd have the ability and more about just the natural things that happen with any team usually when they're trying to work in new players and things like that. And also like I was accounting for things like COVID and, you know, whatever. So obviously those things can still impact us in the second half of the season. So we're not through yet, but I definitely thought they were going to be really good this year. I didn't estimate over 60 wins though. I had them, well, everything I did is like a minimum versus like a maximum. So I said like they're at least going to do like a minimum 55 wins, and people were just like, "Oh, Natalie." And I'm just like, "Okay." You know, so what they're doing right now isn't shocking to me. Obviously, I'm a Warriors fan and I follow the team day in and day out, right? And so I understood things that like Dre wasn't done, even though people wanted to believe that. And I understand some reasons why they didn't based on like the last couple of years, but like people got to understand Dre's a little different from like Steph and Clay because he came into a situation where he started going to the postseason right away, right? Like, even though they weren't winning championships in his first year, he came into a different situation, right? So being on the team for a season without Clay and without Steph, like he'd never been in that situation where the team was just like losing. And so he mentally checked out. And honestly, there was no reason to like work him and run him because they weren't going anywhere that season, right? And so, but I think people looked at that and they're like, yeah, Dre has lost it, you know? And then I don't know what this thing is about like out of mind, out of sight, but somehow people decided that because Steph wasn't playing, that meant that he wasn't good anymore. And that I didn't understand. So, you know, and then there was this whole Kevin Durant left. Okay, but we won 67 and 73 games without Kevin Durant and won the finals. Like Kevin Durant is not the reason the Warriors were good, right? But agendas will agenda. And so I knew all of those things. I don't know. People could say it's blind faith. I thought it was based off of basketball reasons. Like when Steph, Dre, and Clay are healthy, they've never lost the series. They, you know, so I believe a lot in that core. And I knew we were definitely going to get Clay back this year. Obviously, not getting him back last year was devastating, but there were other things going on with our team. So like the Warriors stayed above 500 for most of the season. When they dipped below, it was when Steph got hurt with his tailbone and was out. So he missed some games, but he kept them above 500 the whole season. That was with the team trying to soft tank. That was with tinkering with like James Wiseman in the lineup. You know, they were doing a lot of things and they were playing around with a lot of things. So Kurt infamously said, "We're not chasing wins." And so all of that was happening, and yet the team was still at 500. So once it was locked up that they would most likely now get to, because they were trying to keep their own pick and they were trying to preserve the Minnesota pick, right? So that's why they were playing a little fast and loose last year. That's why they didn't fill roster spots. They like cut, you know, Wanamaker and then didn't add anyone to the team. So when they finally were like, okay, we have to start winning, right? Steph came back and they closed the season. I want to say it was winning 20 of the last 25 games. So when you did the mathematics, they were on a 60 game win pace to close the season, right? So, and in any other year, if there's no play-in, they're a playoff team, right? So they made the 8th spot. like you mentioned, all those teams between like 5, 6, and or it was 4, 5, and 6, or 5, 6, and 4, 5, and
It
6.
was, yeah.
There was like kind of like a three-way tie between them, or like
Yeah,
one
it was
game.
5, 6, and 7. Yeah, 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah, it was like silliness. So I'm just like, and Golden State wasn't that far behind those teams. So I was just like, in my mind, I said Golden State was really, because in the games that Steph played, if you just isolate them to the games that he played, they won at a 56%, like 56% of their games, which would have been like a 5 seed in the West. So to me, I was like, this team was really like a 5 seed anyway. So when you take that into account and couple that with the fact that they went on a 60-game win pace to win the season when they were actually trying to win, and they're now bringing in players that are upgrades over, oh, I don't know, Kent Bazemore and Michael Mulder, it all made sense to me why the team would be good. Now, I don't expect someone who's not a Warriors fan to like pay attention to all those little details, but I definitely feel like there was a lot of wishful thinking going on for this team that they just wouldn't be good again. So I delight in that. I love everyone's crying in tears and misery, and I gloat and I'm obnoxious, and yeah, I'll continue to be that. But it didn't surprise me where they were this year. So when I say I underestimate them, I just mean like I've said a lot of games are going to be close and then they weren't close, you know? But I do think on a night like that in Dallas with the building like
Rocking,
buzzing, the
yeah.
energy, I feel like it's almost inevitable that it won't be one of those kinds of games, you know what I mean? Um so we'll see, but I think it's going to be a good game, you know? Or I'm hoping for a good game.
Yeah, I'm
Uh
hoping for one too.
yeah. Okay. So listen, obviously I've loved part 1 of our conversation. We focused on the Mavs because I just wanted to know more about them because I talk about them a lot. Not a lot. I talk about them sometimes though, and I don't talk about Luca that nicely. And so I wanted to clear the air because I'm sure, you know, you'll retweet the show or let people know you were on the pod, and they might be like, you went on that Luca haters, you know, podcast. And so I at least wanted the chance to explain my position, whether people agree with it or not. But I also wanted to understand more about the Mavericks to see if I've been like unfair to them and to better understand what's happening. And then like I said, just to kind of get your thoughts on like what that matchup was going to be, and you told me, so thank you for that. But the Warriors are also going to be playing the Cavs soon as well, and I'm fascinated by the fact that you kind of have a thing for the Cavs, so I want to like talk to you about them and you know, keep going a little bit more, talking a little bit more. So hopefully you don't mind. Thank you for staying with me. I'm going to wrap up this episode though. So thank you so much, SJ. Thank you for all your knowledge. Thank you for your objectivity. You're probably more objective than me. So by the way, I don't think fans have to be objective. This idea that we're not, I'm like, I'm not the media, bro. I'm a fan. So I appreciate you for that. I appreciate you for being Jamaican. I don't appreciate that you're a LeBron fan, but you have time. You're still young. Hopefully your mother will talk some sense into you.
Oh man.
But no, we're gonna wrap, but we're gonna come back and talk a little bit more. So everybody, I hope you enjoyed the conversation. As y'all can see, SJ is really dope. We're gonna get into some Cavs next, but thank you for listening. Make sure you are following on that podcast. It's available on like basically any streaming platform, or you can subscribe and watch on YouTube if you prefer to do that. Please check out 21 going on 77, which is SJ's podcast. I know it's available on Apple Pods because that's where I follow it. But what other platforms are you available on?
Yes, so it's on Spotify as well as the Anchor app. If you have that as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and most people listen to podcasts on Spotify or Apple anyway, people. So
Yeah.
listen, follow the show, check it out, give her a chance, rate these shows. It matters to us. And Spotify now offers you the ability to rate shows. So do it, but only do it if it's 5 stars. If not, save that rating, okay? And support us as content creators. We need it. But until next time, everyone, take care.